Dr. Kim Yuna rubbed her tired eyes and glanced at the clock on her computer screen. 3 in the morning at the Jeju Island Deep Space Monitoring Station. Meant another quiet night of listening to cosmic background radiation and satellite chatter. She had been working the night shift for 2 years now. Nothing exciting ever happened during these long WHLs. The coffee maker in the corner gurgled softly as she prepared another cup. Her supervisor, Park Jin-woo, had gone home hours ago, leaving her alone with the massive radio telescopes that pointed toward the stars. Most nights, she would catch up on paperwork or read scientific journals while the computers automatically recorded signals from space. Tonight felt different somehow. The first anomaly appeared on her screen at 3:17 a.m., a signal pattern unlike anything in their database, bouncing between 3 different relay satellites before reaching Earth. Yuna leaned forward, adjusting her headset as she fine-tuned the frequency. The signal was weak, but definitely artificial. Someone or something was transmitting across the galaxy. Her hands trembled slightly as she began the translation protocol. The computer systems had been upgraded just last month with new language analysis software designed to detect patterns in unknown communications. As the data processed, Yuna felt her heart rate increase. This was not human technology. The translation came through in broken fragments at first. Words appeared on her screen in Korean, then English, then back to Korean. As the computer tried to make sense of the alien grammar, Yuna called Park Jin-woo immediately, her voice shaking with excitement and fear. "Director Park, you need to come back to the station right now," she said into her phone. "I think we just received our first message from another world." 20 minutes later, Park Jin-woo burst through the station doors, still wearing his pajamas. Under a hastily thrown-in coat, found Yuna staring at her computer screen, tears streaming down her face. "What is it?" he asked, moving to look over her shoulder. "Listen," she whispered, pressing play on the audio file. The voice that came through the speakers was unlike anything either of them had ever heard. It sounded almost musical, with tones that rose and fell like singing, but underneath the alien melody was something unmistakably desperate. The computer's translation appeared on screen as the message played. "To any civilization receiving this transmission, we are the research vessel Peaceful Dawn of the Kethera Science Collective. We study plants and peaceful creatures across the galaxy. The Vorthan raiders have attacked our ship and taken our crew prisoner. They are not warriors like us. They harvest intelligent beings for biological materials to sell on the black market." Park Jin-woo sat down heavily in the chair next to Yuna. "My God," he whispered. The message continued. "We carry 43 adults and 12 younglings aboard our vessel. The Vorthans are cruel and show no mercy to scientists or children. We have perhaps 6 hours before they complete their harvesting operations and destroy our ship. Our coordinates are included in this transmission. We do not expect rescue, but we hope someone will hear our final words and remember that we tried to bring knowledge and peace to the galaxy." The transmission ended with a series of numbers that the computer identified as spatial coordinates, followed by what sounded like a prayer or song in the alien language. Yuna and Park stared at each other in silence for several long moments. Finally, Park picked up the secure phone that connected directly to Seoul. "This is Director Park at Jeju Station. I need to speak with the Minister of Defense immediately." "Yes, I know what time it is. This is a matter of national security. Actually, it might be a matter of planetary security." Within 30 minutes, their small monitoring station was buzzing with activity. Military personnel arrived in black vehicles, followed by scientists from Seoul National University, and government officials who looked like they had been awakened from deep sleep. The alien message was verified, analyzed, and transmitted to every major government on Earth. President Lee Min-ho was awakened at 4:30 a.m. by his chief of staff. By 5 a.m., he was in the Situation Room beneath the Blue House, surrounded by his top advisors and military commanders. Similar scenes were playing out in Washington, Beijing, Moscow, and every other capital city on Earth. "How do we know this is real?" asked General Wang, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Dr. Cho Min-seok, from the Korea Institute of Science and Technology, looked up from his laptop. "We've confirmed the signal's origin point. It came from a star system approximately 47 light-years away. The transmission was bounced off 3 different relay points, which is why it took so long to reach us. The linguistic patterns are consistent with genuine alien intelligence, not human fabrication, and you're certain they're asking for help?" President Lee asked. "There's no doubt," Dr. Cho replied. "They're scientists with children aboard, being attacked by what appears to be a violent species that trades in biological materials. In simple terms, they're asking anyone who can hear them to help save their lives." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. For the first time in human history, Earth had received a distress call from another world. Someone out there, in the vast darkness of space, was crying for help, and humanity was the only species that had heard their plea. The emergency session of the United Nations Security Council lasted exactly 18 minutes. In the history of international diplomacy, no decision had ever been made so quickly or with such unanimous agreement. Representatives from 15 nations sat around the circular table in New York, each one holding a copy of the translated alien message. Admiral Choi Hanna received the call at her home in Busan at 6:45 a.m. as the highest-ranking naval officer. In South Korea, she had expected to spend her morning reviewing routine patrol reports. Instead, she found herself on a military transport to Seoul, clutching a classified briefing folder that would change her life forever. "Ma'am, you're being asked to command humanity's first interstellar rescue mission," explained Colonel Nam Junho as their helicopter flew over the Han River. "Every nation with space capability is contributing ships to this operation." Choi looked at the preliminary fleet roster and shook her head in amazement. "These aren't warships, Colonel. Half of these vessels are civilian cargo haulers and research ships. It's everything we have that can be modified for space combat in the next 48 hours, Nam replied. "The President has authorized unlimited resources for this mission." In shipyards around the world, engineers worked frantically to prepare humanity's makeshift armada. The Korean destroyer Sejong the Great was fitted with experimental particle beam weapons. Japanese cargo vessels received armor plating and missile systems. German research ships were converted into medical facilities. American mining craft were loaded with boarding equipment and combat troops. Captain Lim Do-yan stood in the bridge of his newly modified container ship, watching technicians install weapon systems between the cargo cranes. 2 days ago, his vessel had been carrying electronics from Seoul to Los Angeles. Now it bristled with missiles and carried a full company of Korean Marines. "Captain, this is insane," said his first officer, Lieutenant Park Soo-yang. "We're not soldiers. We transport cargo." "Someone asked for help," Lim replied simply. "That makes us soldiers now." Similar conversations were happening on ships across the fleet. Captain Song Ariam, a former merchant marine officer, found herself commanding a converted luxury cruise ship that now served as a troop transport. The casino had been turned into a military command center, and the swimming pool had been converted into a weapons storage facility. In Australia, mining engineer Captain Kim Byung-han watched his deep space mining vessel receive combat modifications. The same equipment he used to break apart asteroids would now be used against alien raiders. His crew of miners had volunteered to serve as boarding specialists, their experience working in dangerous environments making them ideal for ship-to-ship combat. The most unusual addition to the fleet was the Soul's Pride, an experimental stealth ship that had been under development for 3 years. Captain Yoon Jun had been the test pilot for the prototype vessel. But now, she would take it into actual combat against an unknown enemy. "The stealth system is untested in real combat conditions," warned Dr. Lee Sangmin, the ship's designer. "We don't know if it will work against alien sensors, and we'll find out together," Yoon replied, running her hands over the ship's control panel. "Someone needs to scout ahead and gather intelligence on the enemy," Admiral Choi established her command center aboard the hastily converted research vessel New Horizon. The ship's laboratories had been replaced with communication equipment and tactical displays. Scientists worked alongside military officers, all united by the same desperate mission. "Admiral, we're receiving updates from the alien signal source," reported Communications Officer Kim Tae-yoon. "The transmission is getting weaker. We estimate they have less than 36 hours remaining." Choi studied the star charts on her main display. The alien ship was 47 light-years away, but their experimental faster-than-light drives could cover the distance in 18 hours if they pushed the engines to maximum power. "All ships, this is Admiral Choi," she announced over the fleet communication system. "We have confirmation that innocent beings are about to be murdered by raiders, who see them as nothing more than biological materials to be harvested. We are the only force in the galaxy that has heard their cry for help." The patchwork fleet that assembled in Earth's orbit was unlike anything that had ever existed. 67 vessels from 23 nations, ranging from modified cargo ships to experimental military prototypes. They shared no common design, no standard weapon systems, and no unified command structure beyond their shared humanity. "Fleet status report," Choi requested. "All vessels report ready for departure," replied her tactical officer, Major O. Taiwan. "We have approximately 3,000 personnel aboard the fleet, including combat troops, medical staff, and engineers." "And our chances of success against an unknown alien military force?" Choi asked. Major O was quiet for a moment. "Unknown, ma'am. We have no intelligence on enemy capabilities, numbers, or tactics. We're going in blind." Admiral Choi looked out at the assembled fleet through her bridge viewport. These weren't the sleek warships of science fiction movies. They were converted civilian vessels, experimental prototypes, and hastily modified cargo haulers. But they carried something more powerful than advanced weapons or sophisticated technology. They carried the determination of a species that had never learned to ignore a cry for help. "All ships, prepare for faster-than-light jump," Choi ordered. "We have aliens to rescue." The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Cathora system, their mismatched vessels spreading out in a defensive formation. Admiral Choi Hanna stood on the bridge of her flagship, studying the tactical display that showed 5 large alien ships surrounding a smaller vessel. "Ma'am, we're receiving a transmission from the smaller ship," reported communications officer Kim Tae-yoon. "It's the research vessel that sent the distress signal." The voice that came through the speakers was weak, but filled with hope. "Unknown vessels, this is Dr. Velinara of the Peaceful Dawn. Are you here to help us?" "This is Admiral Choi of the Earth Defense Fleet," she replied. "We received your message. How many raiders are holding you?" 5 warships with approximately 200 fighters each," Velinara answered. "But please, you must leave immediately. These Vorthans are savage killers. They will destroy your ships and harvest your people too." On the bridge of the largest Vorthan vessel, Warpack leader Krextel studied the approaching human fleet with amusement. His tactical officer had identified 67 ships, but they looked like a collection of scrap metal rather than a military force. "What primitive species dares to interfere with Vorthon business?" Krextel growled, his forearms manipulating the control panels with practiced ease. His species had dominated this region of space for 3 centuries, and no one had ever challenged their right to take whatever they wanted. "The ships appear to be from a previously unknown system," reported his intelligence officer. "Our databases show no record of this technology or these vessel designs." Deathworlders spat Krextel. "Look at their ships. Mismatched, poorly designed, probably held together with hope and desperation. They must come from one of those violent planets where evolution creates weak species that rely on numbers instead of strength." Admiral Choi opened a communication channel to the Vorthan fleet. "Vorthan vessels. This is Admiral Choi of the Earth Defense Fleet. You are holding innocent scientists and children against their will. Release them immediately, and we can discuss this peacefully." Krextel's laughter echoed across the communication. "Channel, pathetic mammals. You dare to give orders to the Vorthan Dominion? We are the apex predators of this galaxy. Your weak species should flee while you still can. We're not asking you to release them," Admiral Choi replied calmly. "We're telling you, you have exactly 10 minutes to comply." "Or what?" Krextel snarled. "Your scrap metal fleet will attack us. We have destroyed civilizations with ships far superior to yours. The Vorthon leader made a fatal mistake. He activated his ship's external cameras and transmitted live footage directly to the human fleet. The images showed rows of holding cells where alien scientists were chained to processing tables. Vorthon technicians were extracting organs and biological materials from living prisoners while their victims screamed in agony. The worst part was seeing the smaller figures in the background. Children of the Kethra species, no bigger than human. Toddlers crying in terror as they watched their parents being slowly killed. On every human ship, the reaction was immediate and visceral. Captain Lim Doyan slammed his fist on his control panel, his cargo ship's newly installed weapons systems powering up automatically. Captain Song Ariam felt tears of rage streaming down her face as she watched the torture of innocent beings. All units, this is Admiral Choi. Her voice cut through the communication channels like a blade of ice. You are witnessing what happens when evil believes it can act without consequences. These raiders think they can torture children because no one will stop them. They're about to learn what it means to threaten innocence in front of Deathworlders. Lieutenant Colonel Kim Soo-yoon led the first boarding team, materializing inside the Vorthon command ship using the experimental teleportation. Technology that had been installed on the Soul's Pride, the Vorthons had never encountered this type of warfare before. Humans simply appeared in their corridors, moving through solid walls like ghosts. But the most terrifying part wasn't the technology. It was the expression on the human faces. The Vorthons were used to fear from their victims, or at best desperate defiance. What they saw in human eyes was something entirely different. Cold, calculating fury. The look of apex predators who had found something that needed killing. Secure the prisoners, Kim ordered her team as they systematically disabled Vorthon guards throughout the ship. Medical Team 2, holding Bay 3. We have civilians who need immediate treatment. The Vorthon guards, each one twice the size of a human, found themselves overwhelmed by opponents who moved like liquid death through their ship. Humans used their own weapons against them, turned their security systems into traps, and coordinated attacks with a precision that defied explanation. Major O Taiwan watched the tactical display from the Fleet Command Center as human boarding. Parties appeared on all 5 Vorthon vessels simultaneously. All teams report successful infiltration. Enemy ships are being secured from within. Warpack leader Krextal stared in disbelief as his tactical display showed human forces. Throughout his fleet, these supposed primitives had used technology he didn't understand to bypass all his defenses. Impossible, he whispered. No species fights like this. Where is their honor? Where are their formation tactics? His intelligence officer looked up from his console with terror in his eyes. Sir, I think we made a terrible mistake. I don't think they're from a normal planet. Dr. Velinara pressed her face against the small window of her holding cell, watching the impossible battle unfold in the space around them. The human ships moved like a pack of hunting animals, coordinating their attacks in ways that defied every military doctrine she had studied. They fight like demons, whispered her colleague Dr. Bathera, who was chained to the wall beside her. Look how they move. No formation, no honor codes, just pure violence. The Vorthon guards who had been torturing prisoners just minutes before now ran through the corridors in panic. Strange sounds echoed through the ship's metal walls, explosions, screaming, and something else that made Velinara's blood run cold. Human laughter. Lieutenant Colonel Kim Soo-yoon moved through the Vorthon command ship like water flowing around obstacles. Her team had studied the ship's layout during their approach, memorizing every corridor and access point. Now they used that knowledge to appear wherever the enemy least expected them. Target the weapon systems first, she ordered through her communication device, and disable their engines. We want prisoners, not corpses. The human soldiers moved with a coordination that amazed even their alien allies. They had trained for urban warfare on Earth, fighting in cities where every building could hide an enemy. Now they applied those same tactics to ship corridors, turning the Vorthon vessels into deadly mazes where humans held every advantage. Sergeant Park, Minsu crawled through an air ventilation shaft, his small human frame allowing him access to areas that the larger Vorthons couldn't reach. He emerged behind a group of enemy soldiers who were trying to set up a defensive position. Surprise, he said quietly, before his stun weapon dropped all 6 aliens to the floor. Warpack leader Krextal had retreated to his command bridge, sealed behind reinforced doors and protected by his best warriors. He watched his tactical displays. in growing horror as human forces took control of his entire fleet. "How are they doing this?" he demanded. "Our ships are superior in every way. Our warriors are stronger, faster, better equipped." His tactical officer looked up from his console, with fear in his 4 eyes. "Sir, they're not fighting like any species we've encountered. They ignore our defensive positions and attack from directions that should be impossible. They use our own systems against us. And they're not trying to destroy our ships," added his weapons officer. "They're capturing them intact while keeping our crews alive. Why would they show mercy to enemies?" The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Velinara's voice crackled through the ship's communication system. The humans had freed her and given her access to the ship's broadcasting equipment. "Because they're not like you," she said, her voice carrying to every corner of all 5 Vorthon vessels. "I've been monitoring their communications. They're not here for conquest or revenge. They came because someone asked for help." Major O Taiwan coordinated the fleet-wide assault from his position aboard Admiral Choi's flagship. The tactical display showed human forces systematically taking control of enemy vessels. But what impressed him most was their discipline. "All teams, remember your rules of engagement," he broadcast to the boarding parties. "Neutralize threats, secure prisoners. Protect civilians. These raiders are criminals, but they're still living beings." Captain Yoon Gun piloted her stealth ship between the larger vessels, using her advanced sensors to identify weak points in the Vorthon defenses. Her ship's experimental weapons could have destroyed any of the enemy vessels with a single shot. But her orders were clear. "Disable, don't destroy." "This is Yoon to all units," she reported. "I'm detecting additional ships approaching from the outer system. Looks like Vorthon reinforcements." Admiral Choi studied the new contacts on her tactical display. 3 more warships were approaching at high speed, probably responding to the distress calls from Krekstal's fleet. "All ships prepare for the second wave," she ordered. "But remember, our mission hasn't changed. We're here to rescue civilians, not start a war." The approaching Vorthon reinforcements expected to find the human fleet engaged in traditional ship-to-ship combat with their comrades. Instead, they found 5 Vorthon vessels floating dead in space, their crews captured and their weapons disabled. "What happened here?" demanded Warpack leader Thekmer as his ships took defensive positions around the disabled vessels. "The Deathworlders happened," came Krekstal's broken voice over the communication channel. "They fight like their planet. Taught them no mercy, no hesitation, no honor, just survival." Captain Lim Do-yan received new orders from Admiral Choi as the reinforcement ships approached. His converted cargo vessel might not look impressive, but its newly installed weapon systems were more powerful than anything the Vorthons had encountered. "All civilian vessels prepare for combat," he announced to his mixed crew of merchant sailors and Korean Marines. "Remember, we're not the military. We're just people who decided to help other people." Second battle lasted only 12 minutes. The reinforcement ships found themselves facing an enemy that used tactics they couldn't understand or counter. Humans appeared inside their vessels, their weapons turned against them. Their crews captured alive despite their expectation of glorious death in battle. Dr. Velinara watched the final moments of the battle from the bridge of the rescued research vessel. The humans had not only saved her people, but had done so while showing restraint and mercy that her captors had never demonstrated. "How do they do it?" she asked Captain Kim Byung-han, who was coordinating the rescue of the remaining prisoners. "How do they fight so effectively while still protecting their enemies?" Kim looked at her with tired eyes. "We come from a world that tried to kill us every day for millions of years. We learned to survive by working together and protecting each other. Even our enemies are someone's family." 6 months after the rescue of the Peaceful Dawn, Dr. Velinara stood nervously in the Great Assembly Hall of the Galactic Council on the planet Nexus Prime. Around her sat representatives from over 200 different species, their various forms creating a rainbow of colors and shapes that still amazed her despite months of preparation for this moment. "Honored council members," she began, her translator device converting her musical Kethra language into the standard galactic tongue. "I come before you today to speak about the species called humans and why everything we thought we knew about the galaxy has changed. The council speaker, a tall being with crystal-like skin from the Vexani Collective, gestured for her to continue. Dr. Velanara, your testimony is most unusual. You claim that a previously unknown species from outside our borders launched a military operation to rescue your research team. Why should we believe such an extraordinary story? Velanara activated her holographic display, showing footage from the battle that had freed her people. The assembled representatives watched in silence as human ships appeared on the screen, their mismatched designs and chaotic formation drawing murmurs of disbelief. They received our distress signal by accident, she explained. A transmission that bounced off 3 relay stations before reaching their planet. They had assembled this fleet and traveled 47 light-years to help complete strangers. In the observer section, Admiral Choi Hannah sat quietly in her dress uniform, representing Earth's new interstellar protection force. The woman who had commanded humanity's first rescue mission oversaw a growing fleet that patrolled trade routes across 3 different sectors of space. Beside her sat Captain Baijin Su, who had been promoted to lead the expanded rescue operations. His original cargo ship had been replaced by a purpose-built rescue vessel, but he still preferred to think of himself as a simple merchant sailor who had decided to help people in trouble. The humans didn't demand territory or payment, Velanara continued, addressing the skeptical faces in the assembly. They didn't establish colonies or claim our system. They rescued us, treated our wounded, and left. Their only request was that we contact them if we ever needed help again. Council Speaker Vexani leaned forward in his chair. Dr. Velanara, our intelligence reports suggest that human ships have been involved in over 300 incidents across the galaxy in the past 6 months. Pirate attacks that suddenly failed, slave trading operations that mysteriously collapsed, military raids that ended in disaster for the attackers. Are you telling us this is all coincidence? It's not coincidence, replied a new voice from the back of the chamber. Warpack leader Krextel entered slowly, his once proud bearing now humble and defeated. The Vorthan raider who had tortured innocent scientists now served as a reformed witness to human effectiveness. Honored Council, Krextel said, his translator, making his gravelly voice sound almost apologetic. I led the attack on the research vessel. I have spent my life believing that strength means taking whatever you want from weaker species. The humans taught me a different lesson. He activated his own holographic display, showing tactical recordings from the battle. They could have destroyed my entire fleet in minutes. Their technology and fighting methods are unlike anything we've encountered. But they chose to capture us alive, treat our wounded, and offer us the chance to change our ways. Several council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The idea that a military force would show mercy to raiders and pirates challenged every assumption they held about interstellar warfare. President Lee Min-ho appeared on the main display screen, broadcasting from Seoul. Honored council members, Earth seeks no territory or tribute from the galactic community. We offer only our assistance to any peaceful species that needs help. And what do you want in return? Asked the Zephyrin representative, her tentacles writhing with suspicion. Nothing, Lee replied simply. Someone asked for help. We helped. That's what people do for each other. The simplicity of the statement seemed to confuse many of the assembled delegates. They were used to complex treaties, trade agreements, and political maneuvering. The concept of helping others without expecting anything in return was almost incomprehensible. Captain Song Arium, commanding a hospital ship that provided medical aid throughout the Outer Rim, watched the proceedings from her bridge. Communication consoles showed dozens of active rescue operations happening across the galaxy. Human ships responding to distress calls, protecting merchant vessels from pirates, and evacuating civilians from war zones. Captain, reported her communications officer, Lieutenant Choi Youngman, we're receiving 17 new distress signals. From the Andor sector, looks like another pirate raid on a civilian transport convoy. Set course for Andor, Song ordered, and send word to Admiral Choi. Let her know we're going to need backup ships for this one. The Galactic Council session continued for hours, with representatives debating the implications of humanity's emergence as a galactic power. Some feared that Earth's military capabilities posed a threat to the established order. Others argued, that human intervention had made space travel safer for everyone. Dr. Velanara concluded her testimony with a simple observation. Before the humans arrived, my people lived in fear of raiders like the Vorthans. And now, slave traders and pirates are the ones who live in fear. They know that somewhere out there, humans are listening for distress calls and responding to cries for help. As the session ended, communication centers across the galaxy continued to relay emergency signals toward Earth. The sleeping giant had awakened, and it had decided that protecting the innocent was humanity's responsibility to the stars.